Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine was seen as one of the great successes of the COVID pandemic, credited with saving over 6 million lives in its first year. But in rare cases, it was also responsible for serious side effects like blood clots in the brain, which in some cases were fatal.
I am an Englishman, and a proud one, and a taxpayer in the United Kingdom. Why? It would be awful to learn that the British Broadcasting Corporation had become just the government's propaganda arm, making sure that people were bewildered and distracted. Why? It will be appalling and disgusting to discover that the British Broadcasting Corporation receives money from human beings, the public, the citizens of Britain, just to convey messages that not are only untrue, but might be downright harmful. Watch how the British Broadcasting Corporation, funded by the taxpayer, handle the story of vaccine injury. Are you allowed to say that? Of course you can, because we are on Rumble, baby, and that's why you should consider Rumble Premium. That means you will have a frictionless experience here on Rumble. Consider it, Ronalyn. Consider it, Buddy 1205. Let's get into this story. The BBC have finally acknowledged that vaccine injuries are a real thing. While all of these government inquiries might have melted away and slipped away, suddenly you don't see them no more, right? Your country's not doing proper inquiries, is it? My country's not doing proper inquiries. And yet, how many of us anecdotally know someone that was negatively impacted or was negatively impacted themselves by the vaccines? And I know, it was a long time ago, all the way back like a year ago, that they were making us wear masks and locking us up and telling us that particular drugs had been trialled in ways that they simply hadn't, and granting Pfizer 75 years of immunity. Forget about that. 75 years of immunity. Imagine a vaccine shot that could provide that. And there's something significant about a figure like Bobby Kennedy that was once held behind a threshold, regarded as a conspiracy theorist, emerging into the limelight of mainstream politics. What that tells you is the world is trying to change. And it's organisations, media organisations like the BBC, that are opposing it. That is why nothing less than bringing these organisations to their knees, erasing them from the planet, replacing them with independent media will be sufficient. Let's have a look at how they report on this story.
The Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine was seen as one of the great successes of the COVID pandemic, credited with saving over 6 million lives in its first year.
Remember, it did save some lives. Yeah, can we have a little look at that data? Who paid for that? Was it Pfizer, or was it a university funded by Pfizer? Or was it a regulatory medical agency funded by Pfizer? Or was it a prime minister that had previously owned shares in the company that set up Moderna? Which one of these unbiased sources gave you that information?
Yeah. But in rare cases, it was also responsible for serious side effects.
Very rare, though. Oh, it was rare. Oh, if you know someone harmed, I don't even bother putting it in the chat. It was so rare. You're more likely to find a black Trump voting female unicorn than someone negatively affected by COVID. But it just doesn't happen. You're more likely to find a BBC license payer that says, this is a good deal, I want to continue paying for this license fee. Then you're likely to find someone that's like, yeah, I had a heart attack out of nowhere. Or, hey, suddenly I got vertigo. Or blotchy skin conditions. Or an inability to walk in a straight line. They're so rare. It's like a lottery win. You should actually say thank you. You should say, thank you, Pfizer, for my heart attack.
It was also like blood clots in the brain, which in some cases were fatal.
Very rare, though. Very rare, though. Orange Tosh in the chat coining the lovely phrase, branch Covidians. Nice.
Now, the financial scheme set up to support people injured by vaccines has been criticised, with the payouts too low.
They've set up a scheme. How do we mitigate, minimise, distract, pretend to care about this thing? Set up a payment scheme, but do keep the payments low. Not like the payments that went to Moderna or AstraZeneca, or Pfizer, or the payments that went to the WHO. No, let's keep these payments low. It's a bit like when there was a financial crash in 2008. Allow people to keep the bonuses and the profits generated from the clumsy fiscal ineptitude at best, malfeasance at worst, while ordinary people lose their lives and homes. In this crisis, do you notice how, isn't it weird? I've noticed this thing, that crisis tends to affect ordinary people in a bad way, and yet powerful institutions and elites benefit from them. I wonder if that could lead to a state of perpetual crisis. Let me know in the comments in the chat if you think that's likely.
Jane Wrigley used to be a runner. Now she can barely walk.
Oh no, it's gotten all tragic because it's real people and I was approaching this in a light-hearted way. Now we're going to have to confront the fact that you know people and I know people whose lives are never going to be the same because they trusted the government and they trusted the media and they took that shot, which unless you had comorbidities was probably... And let's analyse those comorbidities. Is it likely that those comorbidities came about because of a poor diet, and who's been endorsing that diet? And was there a couple of year period where you were prevented from taking exercise, and whose idea was that?
Do you want to hold my hand?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Before I had the vaccine, I was a very independent, active woman doing half marathons, and now I have no independence. I can't even shower myself, can I?
No.
Jane suffered a blood clot in her brain 2 weeks after her first dose of the AstraZeneca vaccine in March 2021 and required emergency surgery. As other cases emerged throughout Europe, doctors gave the vaccine-induced clots a new medical term, VIT.
It was so popular, they had to come up with an acronym. I can't keep writing vaccine-induced clots. It's taking too long. Vic?
Lisa Shaw, a presenter at BBC Radio Newcastle, was 44 when she died, 3 weeks after her first AstraZeneca COVID vaccine.
Just another woman, maybe a mother, maybe a sister, certainly a daughter, just dead unnecessarily. Do you remember during the pandemic how enthusiastically they would report if someone who had not had a vaccine died? Do you remember that trope? This person was an outspoken vaccine skeptic and they died. Woohoo! Yeah, good. Serves you right. Do you remember? People that haven't had the vaccine shouldn't be treated in hospitals. Do you remember that? Did you ever see that, for example, on the BBC or in the legacy media or on CNN or MSNBC? Do you remember that? The trouble is that there is such an incessant blizzard of information available that I don't know about you, but I can't handle it anymore. I can't even track it. Like, what is it I'm supposed to believe in this week? What am I being told now? You can't track it anymore. But people were actually being told to take vaccines, being shamed if they didn't take vaccines, celebrated if they died because they didn't take a vaccine, and we're finding out might have been a little bit more complicated than that.
Hartford Gold. Always believe in your soul, you're indestructible. And the world feels insecure and uncertain, doesn't it? With rising prices, crazy debts. For those who are in the United States, thank God there's a way to secure your hard-earned nest egg. Protect that nest egg. Protect it at all costs. Place it beneath a buttock. Do something sensible. American Hartford Gold makes it easy to protect your savings and retirement accounts with physical gold and silver. Yeah, like in the old days, baby. In one phone call, have physical gold and silver delivered to your door or put inside a qualifying retirement account like your IRA. American Hartford Gold has an A+ rating from the BBB and thousands of satisfied clients. Right now, they will give you up to $15,000 of free silver on your first qualifying order. I want me some of this sweet silver. This offer, though, is only for US customers. Call 866-505-8315 or text BRAND, my name, to 98899. That's 866-505-8315 or text BRAND to 98899. Get up to $15,000 of silver and protect your future in this crazy world with solid precious metals, literally made in stars.
All right, let's look at the rest of this filthy propaganda.
Her death was attributed to VIT blood clots. Lisa's husband Gareth is bringing up their son Zach on his own.
After 14 months.
He made a claim through a government scheme set up to support those harmed by vaccines and eventually received £120,000. The amount of this one-off payment hasn't increased since 2007.
She died because she took the product that the government told her to get, and they believe that £120,000 is what makes up for that loss. I think it's insulting. My son will go through the rest of his life without a mum.
Oh man, it's too much. and see, this is on the BBC, and maybe you'll say that's to their credit, but just pay attention to the fact that all the government inquiries into them vaccines have been suspended, probably in your country as well. You need someone like Bobby Kennedy in government. You need anti-establishment politicians to get into the establishment. There's such a requirement for radical change that unless you're talking about anti-establishment politicians, there's really no point in having a conversation. You know, like, it's completely unrelated to this, I assume. Like, a family friend died of, it's quite tangential, it's not even someone that I've ever met, died of bowel cancer. And when you look at, you know, like, people maybe will do a GoFundMe page and you'll see photos of a person's life. And like, what I can't cope with is the normalness, you know, like photographs in a swimming pool, photographs with a dessert, photographs having a beer, normal life. Like, this program, our stream, is so like grand, isn't it? We're talking about Russia and Korea and global war and BRICS and election interference and whether or not Musk is interfering, all of that stuff. But actually, all of us are just dealing with our little humble individual lives. You might be a rich person or a poor person or black or white or Jewish or Christian or atheist or whatever. And all them stuff really, I don't know, obviously it matters to me, but it's not relevant when it comes to the fact that we're all going to die. And when you see something like that, they're sort of mundane. I'm not criticising the BBC for this particular point, but this guy has just lost his wife and his kid's going to grow up without a mother. And that happened not as a result of some terrible crime perpetuated by an individual, but likely because of, at best, ineptitude, but at worst, global deceit on an important subject. An important subject. We were told these things are safe. It's a small percentage. Well, not to that dad. It's 100% of his wife. Not to that woman's children. It's 100% of their mother. And what's the reckoning going to be? Like some little, it's a government payout, by the way. It's not Pfizer paying out or Moderna or AstraZeneca. It's the government. And do you know where the government gets their money? You. So that news report is funded by you because it's funded on a tax. The development of the vaccine was funded on a tax. You paid that. It was BioNTech, the AstraZeneca, and originally, and sort of it was out of Oxford. You paid for that. And then now that people are dying, you're paying for that as well. And that will be mappable onto your country if it's Germany, and more likely you're in America right now, right? There'll be stories like that everywhere. You know that there are. And the function of the media is to prevent you sort of being hit by the wave of how enormous and disgusting that is.
Gareth waited a year for his payment, Jane 2 years. She agrees the money is inadequate.
It doesn't really compare to what it's taken away from me. I mean, Ian can't really work. I can't work either.
From 2000, there were an average of 2 successful claims a year under the Vaccine Damage Payment Scheme. Post-COVID, there have been 188, all but a handful for the AstraZeneca vaccine.
Do you see how they're making this boring as well? Like, it's like how unsensational. There were 100. Like, and they're making the numbers like, and think of the opposition, think of the shaming, think of the people. Like, how many of you just think, I'm not taking that thing, man. I'm not taking that thing. Like, I don't trust the government. Thank God I don't trust no one, because otherwise I might not be like me. As soon as I hear the government want you to take this thing, okay. And now people are like trying their best because they were told they might kill their grandmother and all that mad propaganda. Some of those people are dead now, and that information is being managed, and Bill Gates is being investigated in the Netherlands. What do you think is going on? Let me know in the comments in the chat.
A further 253 people were told that although the vaccine was responsible for their injuries, they didn't meet the threshold of 60% disability and so get nothing.
Sadly, you're only 59% disabled, and I'm sorry about that. So it's let me just calculate that. 59% disabled. That means you're only able to just about struggle your way through life. You get. Can you read that? Can I hold that? It says "fuck you" from the government.
Of nearly 16,000 COVID vaccine claimants, around half have yet to be notified of the outcome. But the harms caused have to be set against the huge benefits of COVID vaccination.
Yes. Yeah, remember the benefits. Okay, let's get a pen. Let's list those now, the benefits of it. Now, what study are you going to rely on for people that, like, I got COVID a bunch of times and, hey, here I am. So it's going to be an interesting trial. And who, by the way, is going to fund that trial? Who's going to invest in funding a trial of, like, well, let's talk to all of the people that refuse to take vaccines, got COVID inevitably because everyone got it, and are fine now.
It's estimated vaccines prevented over 120,000 COVID-related deaths in the UK up to September 2021. Around 50 families affected by VIT blood clots are taking a group legal action against AstraZeneca for compensation.
This is propaganda. I swear to you, like, even the decisions to use a person who speaks like that, like when they want you to believe like that we should be funding a war, even for British people, it will be like this. Vladimir Putin has amassed troops on the Ukrainian border. Take these sets of actions. Remember, they weren't talking like that when it was take the vaccine. You might take this vaccine if you've got concerns that you have comorbidities. We don't really know. They were like at Stephen Colbert dancing next to people in vaccine outfits. They used horror graphics, like literally green slime graphics saying, you could kill your grandma. So I guess, look, even if you don't think this is an interesting issue in and of itself, as a scalpel to dissect the way that the media and the media funded, the state funded, which is you funded, media behave, it's a brilliant scalpel for analysis.
A group legal action against AstraZeneca for compensation. Both the Department of Health and AstraZeneca said their sympathy went out to anyone who had lost loved ones. The government says it will look closely at the concerns of affected families.
That's that guy talking about his dead wife and his son. We're going to look closely at your concern. Are you concerned? Did your wife die? Yeah, I'm like quite concerned. And because I had a wife and she's dead now. And like my little lad, he's concerned. Let's just look closely at that. Let me put that into a calculator. Yeah.
AstraZeneca said it couldn't comment on ongoing litigation, but patient safety was its highest priority.
Was it though, or was it profit?
Adding, regulators around the world state the benefits of vaccination outweigh the risks of extremely rare side effects.
Okay, well, thanks for doing our thinking for us. How about this? You just tell us that there's a medicine available, and if we wanna, we'll take it. And that's the new relationship between the state and the people in every nation in the world. In fact, the state becomes just a sort of a set of, what do I want to say? Operators that sort of like, can you make sure the trash is collected? Yes. Can you make sure that the sewage isn't being dumped into water resources? Yes. Can you make sure that you're not allowing global corporations to pollute the sky? Yes. Can you make sure that energy is run efficiently and we can choose which energy resources used? Yes. Like, that's what I want. I want the bland neutrality of that report from governance.
The legal case could take years to have a full hearing. Fergus Walsh, BBC News.
There you go. So post-COVID, it seems that people dying is a bit boring. During COVID, getting a vaccine was super important and a real and literal song and dance. What a beautiful scalpel, what a beautiful lens through which to view the way that propaganda works. And while Bill Gates is being indicted in the Netherlands, it's worth noting that guy makes some pretty significant donations to media companies as well. It's beginning to become clear how the world works, and that is why free speech is under attack as well. But that is just what I think, although there is evidence for it. Let me know what you think in the comments and chat. If you're watching this on YouTube, by God, you better turn on the notification bell. So this is the sort of story they absolutely hate.
Hey, thanks for watching. If you want to see more uncensored content where free speech can flourish, join our live stream. Click the link right here to watch the next video if you want to, or become a member of a growing movement. Download the Rumble app and you'll be informed every time we make a new piece of content. Stay free.